Welcome to Gut Punch, the podcast that explores life-changing moments. Hosted by Kathryn Lancioni, a seasoned educator with personal insights into resilience. Kathryn shares how life can change in an instant, shaping our path forward. Each episode features inspiring guests who face their own gut punch moments. Guests share their journeys through loss, upheaval, and triumph. What to expect: honest conversations, lessons in resilience, inspiration for growth. Join Kathryn as she highlights courage and perseverance in every story. Gut Punch is a reminder that there is always a path forward. Be part of the conversation. Register now to join Kathryn for today's journey.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kathryn Lancioni, and welcome to another episode of the Gut Punch podcast. Today, we're joined by Lois Kramer-Perez, the Feng Shui goddess that she is. But more importantly, she's someone that had a pretty amazing and unfortunate gut punch happen, but she's here to talk to you about it and, more importantly, share how she got through it. Lois, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Kathryn. I'm happy to be here and share my gut punch.
I appreciate that. So before we get into kind of what happened, why don't you share a little bit about yourself with everybody?
Okay, so I call myself the Queen of Shui because Feng Shui changed my life completely. I never expected I would ever be doing any Feng Shui or meditation, let alone teaching it. And my gut punch, as you'll hear, changed my life completely. And I am on a path of continuous exploration and learning. And the more I learn, the more I can share. And my mission is to share the Shui because everyone deserves to create the life they deserve, mastering the art of being themselves. And that's the one thing Feng Shui taught me, how to be myself on purpose.
I love that. So let's talk about kind of what happened. Give us a little bit of background about when it happened, where you were at this point in life, and then what the gut punch was.
Okay. So I had an amazing career in the fashion industry, had a great job. I was traveling the world. I had great benefits. I made a great salary. My husband, Ray, was thinking about retiring from, it was then called, I think, Verizon. He started out when it was like the New York telephone way back in the Bronx, and through his career, he really learned different ways to use his intelligence and was working in computer stuff. I have no idea what it was. And his dream was he was about to retire and then start his own business. And we were going to finish fixing up the house and start traveling. Our mortgage was going to be paid. It was going to be really a fun life together. And I didn't even know what I'd be doing as far as my career went, but I just knew that things were going to get great.
And it was something that you guys had obviously been working towards and talking about and dreaming about, and then you're there. And like that moment must have been amazing.
Yes, it really was. And we had just celebrated our 19th wedding anniversary. We had been together 21 years. And it was just like we were starting new. That feeling of like, oh, it could be brand new. Could be brand new.
Yeah. And he was, from what you shared with me, he was your soulmate, right? He was your person. Is that fair to say?
Yes. He was the one person that I never expected I would have met. I always felt safe with him. And his sister made a really wonderful observation. She said, I look at the two of you, you don't even have to talk and you're kind of connected, which was to me like, it felt so good because we had that. We really understood each other. We drove each other crazy, of course. Like, we're humans, right? However, when everything came to the bottom line, we got each other. We had each other's backs. I always felt safe. It was such a good feeling.
I love that. So can you walk us through that gut punch moment, that experience that I think in this case, definitely is fair to say, knocked the wind out of you and changed your life trajectory?
I remember this as if it happened yesterday. What was so interesting, I was moaning and whining that I had a toothache. I was on the couch and we were supposed to go out dancing that night. I'm like, oh, I hope I feel better so we can go dancing. And he was upstairs. And then I heard the phone ring and I was about to get it and I heard footsteps and he got the phone. And then the phone rang again and I didn't hear him get it. So I ran upstairs and he must have been sitting on the edge of the bed to put on his shoes and he was lying backward. And I just couldn't quite comprehend what was going on. And I'm yelling at him like, Ray, get up. What's going on? Get up, get up, get up. And then I called a friend of ours, the phone rang again. And the funniest thing was I had a cordless phone in the room where he was. Yet I was running to a phone on a string on one of those cords, like back and forth. It was like, couldn't comprehend reality. And I spoke to his friend. I said, George, something's wrong. Ray's just laying there. He said, I was calling him. He called me and said that he wasn't feeling well. I said, call 911. And then I called back to say, tell Lois to get a aspirin under your tongue. Well, apparently he had a heart attack. And I called 911. They came. It was bizarre situation. And then the most crazy thing happened. A guy in scrubs came in, like a doctor, after the fact. And then he came down and he said, well, we can't bring him back. It's been too long. And all I could think of was, don't bring him back if it's been too long. I didn't even know why I thought that. I was numb. I was just numb. And then off we went to, the ER, and they just pronounced him. And I was in such a stunned reality that
Yeah.
I never experienced anything like that. Calling people. I remember calling his brother, and my best friend had married his brother. So best friends married two brothers, right? So I call my best friends and to speak to them, and my niece answered the phone. Well, we're eating dinner. Can we call you back? And all I could say was, put your daddy on the phone.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And it was just surreal. It was just surreal. And I was walking through a fog. I just couldn't imagine how this
It
could
was
be.
truly 1 minute that changed your life.
Just 1 minute, 1 minute. And I didn't even comprehend that the minute was happening, because it looked like, what? What's going
Yeah.
on? Like, I just couldn't even comprehend the situation together. I had never in my life been in anything like this at all.
Well, and hopefully you never will again. So did you realize at that moment that everything was going to change?
No, I had no clue. And I was really grateful. I had a really good job that demanded, if you could put in 20 hours a day, we'll take it. And
Right.
working with people, overseas, when 8, 9 o'clock came at night, well, they were just getting started. So I'd be emailing and working. I would work till 10, 11 o'clock at night. Then I'd be back in the office. And I remember 4 days after the funeral, I was scheduled to go on a trip to Asia. And my boss said, well, do you really want to go, or would you want to cancel it? I said, why would I want to stay home? Get me out of here.
Yeah.
And I was so grateful to get out and go into another reality and just, get into working, And just, that's all I could do.
It's funny how, we hear so many people complain about work and complain about their jobs and all of that. But I know, from what I went through, like, work has been a savior for me, like, because it just has enabled me to focus on something else. And in your case too, it enabled you to focus on something else, which I think is so incredibly important. When did you have that realization that life had changed forever?
Well, I started creating new ways of being, new patterns in my life. I
Okay.
started this pattern of getting in the car and playing Leanne Rimes, How Can I Live Without You, and various other music that we loved together. And I would cry.
Yeah.
So anytime I got in the car, whether I put on the music or not, I would cry.
Yeah.
And then one day we were going to a family event out in Long Island, and coming from New Jersey, it took me 3.5 hours to get there. And I cried the entire way. And I was like sick to my stomach when I got there. And I said, this has got to stop. I need something. Didn't know what, but I knew there had to be something different. And then the universe steps in. The universe steps in because my mom was visiting. It was a freezing Thanksgiving weekend. And my cousin said, oh, let's go to this art show in Hoboken. So off we go to Hoboken. We find a place to park. It's freezing. We get out and we find we're there on the wrong day. So we get back in the car, and my mom says, let's go to that place where you always take me with the antique shop. So in Midland Park, there's a place called Brownstone Studios. And there are
Yes.
all these little nooks and crannies of different antique shops and quirky little gift shops, and just lovely. So off we go, and I wander into this little tiny booth, and a woman is standing there, and she's doing Reiki. And I said, I think I've heard about this Reiki. Well,
Yeah.
it was the first day that she was in her space after quitting her corporate job in the restaurant business. And I was the first person who walked in.
Wow.
So I booked a session, and together we did all these Reiki sessions. Then I became a Reiki master practitioner, not expecting I'm going to heal anybody. This was for me. Then
Yeah.
I heard about Feng Shui. So I had a Feng Shui consultation. I heard the teacher was doing classes. And before the 12-month course was about to start, the certification, she was doing little mini sessions. And
Okay.
I went to one, and she said, all right, next week we're going to talk about the I Ching. I write it down, ICHING. Don't know. Okay. And as I would, I don't know, some people that may have lost someone, you wander the halls, you wander the room. I would wander Ray's office. I would look in drawers. I would look on bookshelves. I would just be up at 3 a.m. wandering the house. And I found this book, The Illustrated I Ching. And I said, oh my gosh, how did he know
Yeah.
I needed this book? Ray, thank you. Okay, I guess I'm meant to continue. And then I went to the open house and I wrote the check for the entire year. Never missed a weekend. I'd fly home on a Friday from Asia. I'd go to school on the weekend.
It's
And little
amazing.
did I know how my life was changing. Little did I know.
I was going to say, so your low, in retrospect, your low was driving that 3.5 hour drive to Long Island where you just wept the whole way. And you got there. And as you said, you knew it had to change.
Yes. I couldn't stand the pain. I couldn't stand to feel that way anymore. And in the meantime, when I would work till 10, I'd go to the Burger King drive-through and then I'd be eating burgers in my bed at midnight, or I would stock up on junk food for the weekend because I didn't go anywhere. And that was another unhealthy habit that I had created of,
How
burrowing
did,
in.
yeah, how did you keep the focus to keep going with the Feng Shui and the Reiki? Like, what motivated you to keep on that positive path?
Well, getting out of the house and having something to focus on, noticing I could feel different.
Okay.
And it started changing my entire perspective of how I lived my life every day.
Wow.
Okay, so one thing was every weekend we'd get into the class and the teacher would ring some bells and we would all just stop and sit and we'd be ready. Well, I started bringing bells to work. So instead of running through the cafeteria, grabbing my coffee, and before I even sat down, hit the voicemail, turn on the computer, I'd come in, I'd put down my coffee, take off my coat, put my purse away. I'd sit at my desk. I would ring my bells 3 times and then I would start my day. That was the first thing. I didn't start my day on one foot. And one day I didn't ring the bells and I heard from down the hall, hey, Lois, ring those bells. Where are those bells? I didn't realize people were observing how I changed just by how I didn't tell anybody what I was doing. I was just being me. So that was the first thing of how I started recognizing don't run on one foot, get grounded. The second thing that happened, now I'm thinking I'm studying Feng Shui. I'm going to learn how to put your sofa, the colors, all this stuff. What I learned about myself was I wasn't a bedroom set kind of a girl because I believed when you grew up, you got married and had a bedroom set. Now, no one told me this. I observed my mom had one, my aunt had one, Kathy's mom had one. That's what I thought you did. Well, guess what? I never bought a bedroom set. I could never find one that I liked. And then I went, duh, I'm not a bedroom set kind of a girl. So I went out and bought a brand new bed. And then a year later, I bought some end tables. A year later, I bought a dresser, and I've never been happier. And this to this day tells me when I get stuck and something's not jiving and I'm not moving, I go, wait a minute. I'm not a bedroom set kind of a girl. What am I expecting to be that is not me? What have I admired from someone else? What have I been influenced by? And I can choose to say, you know what? I admire that, but that's not me. This is how I'm going to do it. And that
Right.
completely.
Yeah. And I was going to say, I think so many people get caught up in the expectations that society puts on them. Right. And, we always look at other people, of she or he has it so well, or, oh, and the reality is like, that's a facade. And the reality is I think many of the misconceptions that we have about ourselves, that we have about others, or they're misconceptions truly, because they're based on facades. They're not based upon real data. And so I think it's amazing that you had that bedroom set revelation kind of thing, because I'm the same way, honestly. Because it's hard to be that individual.
Yes.
And I was going to say, when Ray died, your predictable life, the life that society says we're supposed to have, imploded immediately.
And when I would talk to my mom, who was living in Florida at the time, she would say, what are you taking all these Feng Shui classes for? I hope you're not going to quit your job. And I would just laugh because I also learned so much about people. Feng Shui taught me how to understand the different nature and qualities of people. And even if I didn't know their birth date, I could tell by their behavior and even the face reading I do of what their nature is and how they would respond. And I knew that my mom would never have the ability or want to step out of what her norm predictable lifestyle was. I knew from observing her and then looking back when my dad died when I was 19 and my mother's path after that, how she clung to what she knew, how
Yep.
she clung to her predictability, and that's how she coped and survived. And it wasn't right or wrong, it's just who she was. So when she would say these things to me, I would laugh and go, well, that's me, not her. It's okay, Mom. I'm going to be okay. I'm going to be okay.
Were you ever scared?
Actually, no. It was almost if I didn't know any better.
Okay.
And it also taught me when I would get scared and start getting all into my head about something, it never happened. The things in my life that were the most glorious were the things that I had no idea that I was doing. If I would have
So
thought about it, I
amazing.
would have said, what are you doing? But I got there and then I'll go back. Oh, wait, how the heck did I get here? Well, I'm glad I got here because if I thought about it, it wouldn't be happening.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've been there as well. You have these moments where, you're like, oh my God, like I'm doing what I always dreamed of doing. And how did I get here? And, you immediately, you sort of like giggle internally. And it's very, I don't know, it's very liberating. So for you, like, I don't know, how did you get the courage? I mean, you had so much courage. Like, you've been married to this man for 19 years. He's the love of your life, and he drops dead, like literally drops dead. Where did you just, I mean, was it digging deep? Like, what did you discover about yourself in this whole thing, this whole experience?
Well, I discovered that the universe was always providing signs. There was always affirmation. So the first one was when I met the Feng Shui teacher. Well, she came to my house and I had photos in my kitchen on the counter, and she said, "Oh, I know that woman. I used to work with her." I said, "Oh, that's my boss." Ta-da! Then I find the book, The I Ching from Ray. Then I'm waiting to get a massage at this place that sold crystals and all kinds of wild things in Ridgewood after a trip that I had. And I was all excited. I said to this woman, "I'm so excited. I'm going to start my feng shui training next week." And she said, "Really? What school?" I said, "Well, the Feng Shui Alliance." She said, "Oh, I just graduated."
Wow.
So those three things, I'm on the right path. And I
Yeah.
just said yes. I took a step. I said, this feels good. I'm saying yes. I didn't think about it. I didn't plan it. It wasn't something I would have explored if it didn't show up in my face. And I just said, okay, I'll go to the open house. Had no expectations.
But I think there's something here too that's super important to point out. You had the courage to acknowledge it, right?
Yes.
Because I really do believe that there are things that come to us, whether good or bad, that we elect to acknowledge, and then there are others that we elect to ignore.
Right.
And we don't really know at the time that we're ignoring it. We just make some excuse for why we can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then something else happens in life, and you're like, wait, like I passed on that, or I didn't do that thing, and then the horrible word of regret comes in, and it's terrible. So I know I've experienced that in my own life, and it sounds like what I so love about your story is like you welcomed it all, the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You navigated through it, because this just shows that life is not a straight path. Maybe it's ups and twists and turns. Do you think that like there were any habits or a mindset that you have that empowered you to go on this journey?
When I look back to how I've done things in my life, always had opportunities that I had no clue where I was going. So, for instance, the very first job I had when I got out of FIT was in a knitting mill. And they said, we had this idea. We want a liaison between all the designer and accounts and production. So we want you to work with them and, develop, the sweaters and the garments and create what happens. So this whole position was created for me.
Wow.
Then the next job I had, they had this idea that we want someone to run a design studio. We have all these designers, they're all operating. Well, we want to make it bigger. We're going to bring some hand knitting. We're going to bring in pattern makers. I ran the design studio, new job. Then I was this designer on the side. We had a private label brand that worked directly with different JCPenney's or different catalogs. It was Spiegel catalog, all these other companies. But we would do directly for what they wanted. Well, I was doing these little side jobs. They promoted me to be the person to be the design director for this company, for these brands. Never had one before. Then my own little empire was so cool that I was in charge of everything. I made my own rules. I had my own standards, my quality standards. Then they promoted me to be quality assurance director for the company, which they never had before. And I had to learn that. So I look back, I go, every job I ever had, and even at Liz Claiborne, they had an idea for someone to be in charge of this, their fitting team. And then once I got that all in place, they decided they wanted me to be the director of sourcing for knits with a different perspective of not just running around the calculator. So everything I ever did was something I never knew I was going to do. And I said, well, I guess this kind of follows suit. Everything I'm doing, I never expected I would ever do.
The unknown becomes the norm.
Yes, that becomes a norm.
Yeah.
But I don't know what's happening until I look back and go, oh, it happened again.
Yeah. And the other thing that I love, and I know this, I relate to this a lot too, is, you're handed a series of opportunities, which, as we were saying before, you either elect to do or to pass on. And somehow when you look back, they all connect. There's this great Steve Jobs quote where it was Stanford, I think it was 2006 graduation, where he said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only do it looking back. And I think that's such a brilliant statement. And I think, at least for me, something I've learned is like that there's usually one or two experiences that are transformative, but you don't know it while you're in it, right? You look back and it's like that wow moment for you. What was your wow moment?
My wow moment was, so here I am. I graduated in 2003 from the Feng Shui school, the first certification.
Yeah.
While we were doing that, I had the great fortune to travel the world studying the energy work and the dowsing with another teacher. I got to a point where I said, wouldn't it be great if I could just quit this job and do whatever I'm doing? Wouldn't it be great? All of a sudden, the president of our group moved to the Liz Claiborne flagship label. And she said, well, where's the Lois that works with design and da-da-da? Well, you've got the one, she goes, you know what? I want her. Bring her over. So they created a position for me as a consultant. So now I don't have any accountability to all the other things that I was responsible for. I'm just there helping design. I'm helping the manufacturing production team know how to cost. I'm working with the factories in between. It was like I was on a fun job. I was slowly disconnecting from that old loop. And then an opportunity came to spend 28 days in Vietnam over the summer to do this clearing course I wanted to take with my favorite teacher. And I had a new direct report and I said, I want to take 6 weeks. I want to take 4 weeks off over the summer. It's a good time. It's in between our seasons. I don't want to take it I'll take it without pay. I want to do this Vietnam trip. Well, we'll talk about it. You get 4 weeks vacation. I said, well, I don't want to lose that. I'll take those in days. So anyway, she said, we'll talk about it. So off I go to Korea. Next stop, Shanghai. And my new direct report meets us there. And I said, I lost my passport. I said, I think I dropped it by customs. So I went to, and she, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? I said, they're going to find it. What do you mean they're going to find it? Where should I know? I said, they're going to find it. I don't have time for this. So now this was a gut punch. Now everything was going. I went to the concierge. Good things happen to people.
Yes.
You're going to find my passport. I dropped it by customs. Here's my little card with all my info. Going out to dinner, have a massage around the corner. I'll be back around 11. I'll see you
So
then.
calmly said.
And then, but inside everything was going on. So I'm sitting at dinner and my new boss, she's, what are you going to do? I go, they're going to find it. They're going to find it. That's all I will accept. That's all I will accept.
Okay.
When I got back to the concierge, to the hotel, he says, good news. Good things happen to people. We found your passport. Now the tears are flying down my face. That I'm like Jello. And I went up to my room and I had $88 in my wallet. Now 88 is a very auspicious number for the Chinese culture. It's what they give, for Happy New Year, for Chinese New Year, when you want to honor someone. So I put the $88 in an envelope and I handed it to the concierge and I said, thank you very much. And then I said, I can't wait to get back to the office to quit my job. And that was it. That was my moment. That said, if I could do this, I could do anything. What the hell am I afraid of?
So I love that story. And so what have you learned about yourself from all this craziness, from Ray's horrible death to your wow moment to where you are now?
To be grateful that I've always done what I loved. I hear people talk about, my job, I'm going to work, like everything found. Well, even in the worst of stressful, maniacal times in the fashion world, I always loved what I did.
Yeah.
I was so grateful when I got that, when I had that art class in high school, my teacher talked about, oh, I went to FIT and I was doing fashion design. I'm going to FIT. That's all I decided. And the guidance counselor says, well, you have to apply to other schools. I said, why? I'm going to FIT. Well, what if you don't get in? I'm getting in. What do you mean? Like, I, that's just what it was. And I got in. And
That's
I think about how grateful I am for all the opportunities I've had that I've said yes to. And I feel, oh my gosh, look at what's happened to me. Ray, look at how you've helped me find my
yeah.
way. And I learned so much about myself, that understanding when I become insecure, what that means, the stories I told myself that weren't true. If I could be liberated from being a bedroom set kind of a girl, I could do anything. And my mission is to share my shui, however, whether it's through my NLP training, my Feng Shui training, my energy training, taking another course I'm being certified in a month. I have to do my final project. I'm always learning something. I add it to my toolbox that I can share with others. So everyone deserves to be themselves on purpose and love it, right? That's my mission.
So as my birthday sister,
Yes, birthday sister.
yes, as my birthday sister, I do ask this question to you. What keeps you going? Is it just, what keeps you going? What keeps the fire in the belly? What keeps you happy? Like, where does that come from?
It's a combination of committing to teaching. So I call my acupuncture points, because what I learned about myself, I have a lot of water element in my nature. I've got water. I'm like the three faces of Eve: water, fire, and metal. So water wants to get up late and float around and la, 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 right? Fire wants to have fun. It's got to be fun. And metal is very controlling. It has to be perfect. Well, what I do is I create acupuncture points. So every Thursday at 10:30, I have a group that I lead. I teach classes in the community schools, spring and fall. I have those acupuncture points. I look for opportunities to share things I can teach, other wellness centers. So these are all my acupuncture points. So when I can share, then I want to learn more, so I have more to share. And then opportunities come up. Well, what can I do for me? What will give me excitement? What can I take? What can I learn? I want to learn something new. I want to learn a new perspective. And what keeps me going is getting out of my own head and deciding, well, that doesn't work anymore. I'm going to explore this. And guess what? If that doesn't work, now I know. Now I say, oh, good. I'm glad I saw the contrast.
Yes. Well, because it's funny. I was talking with someone about this last night, and she asked me, she's like, what keeps you going? And I said, I don't know. I just do. There's the world is so big, and there's so much to learn.
Yes.
And there's so much curiosity that comes from learning. Because like, I know for me, and I know you're very similar, the more I learn, the more curious I become.
Yes.
And I find that in moments when you get a gut punch, that curiosity can help you discover the resilience that you need to get through it.
And Kathryn, you said something very powerful: curiosity. So for those of us, I have the metal, not all the time. I can see from your face and knowing you have a lot of metal qualities: leadership, clean, focused, right on, target, right? You don't like a lot of fluff, don't give me a lot of blah, 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 right? You just get to the point. Let's go, let's do it. You have very high standards for yourself and everybody else around you. When you need the curiosity to help soften the rigidness of
Yes.
what the metal can become. The curiosity is your fire. It's what gets your passion going. And
Yeah.
that's how I feel the same.
Yeah. And I think for anyone who's listening who just had that gut punch or is just stuck, right? I feel like these days, like I talk to so many people and all the different things that I do, and everyone just feels stuck. They don't feel like getting out of bed in the morning. They don't feel like going to work. They don't feel like going to this family obligation or this work obligation. And I'm often asked, how do you get unstuck? And, you let yourself, I'm think famous at this point for saying, and Lois, I know you can relate to this, we're our greatest friend and our worst enemy, right?
Yes.
Like, we can let ourselves discover the world, and we can also be the ones that make us shut off the alarm, roll over, and pull the covers over our head.
Absolutely.
And I think what I love about your story was, you moved, I mean, what happened to you was horrible. You had you had your person, you had your dreams, and you were there. And then for some reason, the universe took that person from you, but you managed to move on and take that dream and make it your reality, even though it had to be recast, shall we say. You went from having a play of two to a play of one, and some of the scenes got rewritten and some of the dialogue changed, but you got to where you wanted to be. And I think, I guess, like, what are your three biggest takeaways from your journey and that you want to share with people who feel stuck right now?
Reach out. Reach out there's community for you. Whether it's people that you know, maybe it's a community of people you don't know. Reach out and talk to someone. That was important. I did get to a point where if I had a long weekend, like over the weekends, I would really go low. And I got
Right.
to a point over a Memorial Day weekend where I called in sick on Tuesday. I called in sick on Wednesday. And on Thursday, I said to my boss, I can't get out of bed. I don't feel like it.
Yeah.
They talked me into getting dressed and coming to work to take me to lunch. I got there at 4:00. It didn't matter.
Right.
Okay. And then I found a group. I found a grief group. Not at
Okay.
first. The first time I went for a session, I was like sitting there going, oh my God, this guy never shuts up. He looks like Richard Dreyfuss. Let me out of here. And it took me like another 6 months to be ready and I found a great group where we all would just, show up. And then what was interesting, we got to a point where we were ready to take the next step. So we'd go to the grief group, we'd go out for coffee. Then instead of going to the grief group, we'd meet for dinner. Then we went out dancing, like it took time, over a long period of time. So get a community, find someone, call me. I'll be your community. All right. Because it's important. It's important. Okay. Be open to changing your perspective. Be open to saying yes to something you thought you might never say yes to.
That's great. Because what's that saying? To get comfortable, you have to get uncomfortable, right?
Yes. Get a little uncomfortable. Go out and go to karaoke. And even if you're not going to get up and sing, enjoy the music. Take that class you always wanted to take. Well, I always wanted to take an art class. Well, take it.
Yeah.
Go ahead. There's so much opportunity. Say yes to something. Get out of take a step of something different.
Yep.
And then, my third thing is be yourself on purpose.
Yes.
Really, really start to notice when I call that your MC Hammer moment. Remember MC Hammer? He would go, no, I can't touch this. You'd be singing those crazy pants. There comes a point where we all have these moments where it doesn't matter who's coming at us, what's happening. We feel so good. Nothing's going to get me. I don't care. Be cranky, be this, say this. I got this. I feel so good. What's happening in that MC Hammer moment? Where are you? What are you doing? Who are you with? What is that feeling? That's what you want more of. How did I get here? Do it again. Let's do it again. And focus on those and start listening to the way you think to yourself rather than saying, I'm so tired. Say, okay, what adventure's waiting for me? Start having a new way to speak to yourself and look for those MC Hammer moments. Because when you declare, oh my God, I feel so good, I could do anything, your subconscious is going to say, let's prove that she's right. And things are going to show up to prove that you're right. Rather than, okay, she wants to be nying, let's prove it. Show her. But if you're proving your best moment ever, you'll find more of them. Be yourself on purpose.
That's so true. I love that. Well, Lois, thank you so much for the conversation. You always bring a smile to my face and make me laugh. And I'm just so happy that we share the same birthday, my birthday sister. So if people do want to call you, how can they get a hold of you or, email you? What's the best place to find you?
You can find me at loiskramerperez.com. You can email me at loiskramerperez.com. So as long as you know my name, you're going to find me.
Wonderful. Thank
and
you.
I'm happy to share this way.
Yeah. Well, and thanks for sharing the gut punch. I've known you for a long time and just your energy and your wisdom and your shui. Like I love and appreciate. And so thank you for being a guest on the show today. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me and inviting me, Kathryn. I am so honored that you invited me. I have such respect and love for your grace and wisdom and just your way of being.
Thank you. I thank you. And I should say to everyone, so Lois is our last guest on season 1. And so she's the final part of the season 1 of Gut Punch. Look for season 2. And that'll be coming to you sort of right after the start of the new year. Thanks, everybody.
That's it for today's episode of Gut Punch. I hope you found inspiration, because no matter how hard life hits, there's always a way forward. Make sure to follow or subscribe to Gut Punch on your favorite podcast platform. If you know someone who could use a little inspiration, share this episode with them. Thanks for listening, and until next time, stay strong. See you in the next episode.